Reeves, councillors, legislative colleagues that are here for the Bear Pit in a few minutes. The shorter I am, the quicker we get to the Bear Pit. But welcome, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning on what is the hottest day this year in the province of Saskatchewan. It's an exciting day nonetheless, just because of that. After our February and part of January, we're truly resilient in this province, and we deserve a break in the weather here this spring as we enter our spring season. My colleagues and I, as I said, we will be in the Bear Pit here in a short period of time. We look forward to hearing from you every year at that event. I'm sure you look forward to being heard by the Cabinet of the Government of Saskatchewan at that event. But we do, as it really gives us some insight into what's happening in our rural municipalities, our communities across the province, and we thank you very much for that input and for the frankness of that input. It's appreciated, and it guides us as we make decisions on your behalf into the course of the next number of months and the year ahead. Speaking of my colleagues, I do want to mention that I have the good fortune of serving with a great team of men and women here on your behalf. They are completely committed to advancing the interests of our communities and advancing the interests of our province. And I can tell you that these folks in Cabinet and in our Saskatchewan Party caucus, they know the files that they are assigned, they know them very well, and they know their constituencies inside and out. And I thank you for your engagement with each of them. And that's why I plan, as we get to the Bear Pit, to delegate as many questions as possible to my colleagues and not to answer them as the Premier. That's been known in years gone by as the Premier's prerogative. As a minister, in particular as a Minister of Environment, I didn't like it very much. But now that I have a little more fulsome understanding of it, I'm starting to like it quite a bit. But immediately after the Bear Pit, my colleagues and myself, we need to head back to Regina. The spring session of the legislature is underway, and we have another question period to get to at 1:30 there. And it's been an interesting session so far, most assuredly. Last week, we engaged in some international diplomacy. That spilled over into my office. Actually, we had the city of Moose Jaw and the Norwegian municipality of Stor-Elvdal in my office after the signing of their historic Moose Truce. And as you may have seen, there was a little bit of a celebration. I took part in the Moose Truce dance with Stor-Elvdal Deputy Mayor Linda Henriksen. This is a moment that I'm certain is going to live forever, thanks to the internet. And it's a moment that my wife summarized as, this was not your finest moment. And my daughter informed me, she's home this week, that she probably isn't going to be going out in public with me for just a short period of time to let this cool down a little. But it was all in good humor, and it was for a good cause. Ladies and gentlemen, what this international event, I think, underscores for myself and hopefully for us in this room is a necessity for all of us at all levels of government to be creative when it comes to our economic development in our communities and enhancing and promoting the communities that we live in. And I would say there's full marks to Moose Jaw Mayor Fraser Tolmie and his counterpart from Norway, Ms. Henriksen, for the conversation that they took part in and ultimately coming to the Moose Truce at the end and forwarding the opportunity and the promotion of their two communities in this world. As this example provides, so often our best ideas come from municipalities in this province, both rural and urban municipalities. And at the provincial level, as I said, we often take the lead from you. More than often, we take the lead from you. You're at the forefront of the economic development in our communities and thereby at the forefront of the economic development in our province and in our nation. And I want to thank you for your efforts. I want to thank you for your work in every aspect of the governance that you partake in. We're well served by municipal leadership in the province of Saskatchewan, and it's truly, I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues when I say it's our pleasure to be with you this morning to discuss a number of items. We'll have the opportunity to discuss a few items in the upcoming budget, contrary to the advice I received from the Minister of Finance. And we'll have the opportunity, I'm sure, in the Bear Pit to consider some of the challenges and opportunities that we face in our communities across this province. I've been on this job now as your Premier for just a little bit more than a year. And with any new job, there's uncertainty. What's given me confidence in this position as Premier of Saskatchewan, and what's reassured me all along during my time in government that I've had the opportunity to serve since 2011 is the strength and the character and the energy of the people that I get to serve with, my caucus colleagues and my cabinet colleagues. But also the strength and the character of the people that we collectively serve together across this province. We have an amazing province. And I believe what's best about Saskatchewan, the essence of the story that we have to tell is to the rest of the world, is found right here in this room in the communities that we collectively represent. We have incredible generosity in Saskatchewan. We have compassion. We have people volunteering their time and their resources for every cause literally under the sun. And the work that you do on the land, in business, in both large and small business, and ultimately in all levels of government. The synergy that we have in this province, the synergy of how rural and our urban communities come together, needs to be acknowledged. The foundation of our economy, the foundation of our export-driven economy, the food, the fuel, the fertilizer that we ship to over 150 countries each and every year all around the world, is located in rural Saskatchewan. And in urban Saskatchewan, we see the people that add value to those resources, and we should never lose sight of this synergy of how rural and urban Saskatchewan, our rural and urban communities come together, and how crucial our communities are to the well-being, the collective well-being of our province. The important role that you have played over the course of the last decade of the growth of our communities and the growth of our provinces needs to be acknowledged. The vital part that you will play as Saskatchewan continues to grow in the years ahead, and our best days are ahead of us. Make no mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, this growth has allowed our government to invest in key priorities in all of our communities, in programs like municipal revenue sharing. Municipal revenue sharing in this province is the envy of municipalities outside the borders of this province. Our Saskatchewan Municipal Revenue Sharing Program has provided us with transparency, it's provided us with predictability, and it's provided us with a level of funding that is revered amongst municipalities across Canada. In fact, since 2007, our Municipal Revenue Sharing Program is up 89% in just over a decade. That's under the old formula, before we made some changes this most current year. Today we have a new revenue sharing formula, a formula that will provide $10 million extra to municipalities across the province. But I want to thank you over the course of those 2 years for working with your provincial government, your relevant ministers, to develop this new formula, and I want to thank you for your patience in allowing us to get to this point where we still have those essential qualities that you in this room require at your governance tables, and we require in fairness at the provincial level. The foundations of predictability of a municipal revenue sharing formula, transparency of a municipal revenue sharing formula, and sharing in Saskatchewan's wealth through sharing 3/4 of a point of the PST. Under the new formula, the revenue sharing will be based on just that 3/4 of a point to the PST, and this means we will receive $250 million into the formula this coming year. That's a $10 million increase from where we were. Delegates, it's important for us to note this in this room, that this funding will be provided within a balanced budget. This represents a 4% increase to our municipal revenue sharing formula this year, and it will be provided within the confines of a balanced budget that will be introduced next Wednesday. As I said, next Wednesday, our finance minister, the MLA from Humboldt, the Honourable Donna Harpower, will rise in the Assembly, and she will introduce a balanced budget. But I would also say that it's a budget that is going to strike the right balance. It's going to strike the right balance of investment, continued investment in infrastructure in our municipalities, but also provincial infrastructure in our communities, in the services that people expect their provincial government to provide across this province, while exercising that fiscal restraint to ensure that we preserve that opportunity to invest for that next generation, for our children's generation, also important. So be a balanced budget, but I would put forward it will be the right balance for the people of Saskatchewan. But make no mistake, this will be a tight budget. We're still dealing with pressures, a number of pressures. We're still dealing with some headwinds to our Saskatchewan economy. So a 4% lift to municipal revenue sharing in this year is significant. Increased revenue sharing is, I think, in fairness, a tangible demonstration of our commitment. Our commitment as your government to rural Saskatchewan, but also our commitment to municipalities across this province. We have other examples of that commitment as well. You see our support in crop insurance increasing year over the year, the highest per acre coverage in the history of the program, a wider selection of price options and coverage levels available to ag producers that you represent and I do as well. You see that commitment in rural pest control. We have our Ag Minister, Dave Merritt. He's as enthusiastic as he has ever been about pest management, and today, for certain today, as he ever was when he was SARM president here. Dave has actually no tolerance for any vermin of any kind. None. And there will be evidence of that in the upcoming budget. You see our commitment to rural Saskatchewan in our continued record investment in highways. Continued investment as we move forward that will be focused on safety, the safety of our highways that our families travel on, specifically intersection safety. In healthcare, a topic that would have dominated the bear pit 10 years ago, and we're all hoping it will today for Jim Ryder's sake. You have seen investment over the last decade in 14 new long-term care homes, a new children's hospital that will be open later this year in Saskatoon, a new hospital that we had the opportunity to open last Friday in North Battleford, a new a Saskatchewan hospital, North Battleford, replacing a 100-year-old facility, representing the single largest investment in the history of the province of Saskatchewan in mental health care treatment. Rural Saskatchewan has also benefited from an increase in healthcare professionals. Our rural communities since 2007 across this province, we have added 900 physicians into our mix. We have added 3,400 nurses into our healthcare complement. As I said 10 years back, those questions were asked in this bear pit of then Don McMorris, and we listened and we took action. And these are the results: investment in infrastructure and investment in healthcare professionals providing care not only to us in this room, but to our families and to our families' children and into the future. We've provided more incentives for these physicians and these nurses to train and work in our rural communities across the province. We've reaffirmed our commitment to STARS. There's now a new 10-year agreement in place with the support of Nutrien, but also with the support of SARM and the support of many municipalities in this room through participating in a voluntary levy. And that is appreciated. And for that support through you to your municipality, I say thank you. Since 2012, we've had more than 4,000 patients that have been transported or cared for by STARS. Literally, lives have been saved because of the STARS service that we have in this province. And it's good to know with this 10-year agreement and with your support in this room, and through you, the support of the provincial government, that STARS will be there for people of Saskatchewan, the people in your community, for many years to come. Our commitment to your communities can be found in the improved cellular coverage that we are in the process of working our way through. And it's never enough, I understand, but just last week, SaskTel announced the launch of 8 more small cell towers in the province. We have Paddockwood, Zennon Park, Theodore, Mydale, Siemens, Simpson, Spalding, and Lang, and we continue with our outbuild. In the last decade, SaskTel has added more than 200 cellular towers to improve our coverage, to improve our opportunities to conduct business in rural Saskatchewan, and that includes 50 small cell towers in our smaller communities across the province, and SaskTel continues with the expansion of our high-speed internet services with 35 rural locations being added in the province. Ladies and gentlemen, we have also responded and continue to respond to your call for enhanced public safety in our communities and in our homes. Through the new protection and response teams, which have improved response teams and increased the visibility of law enforcement in rural Saskatchewan, but also through amendments that have been made to the province's trespass legislation. Amendments that provide a better balance of the rights of a rural landowner and the members of the general public. Amendments that afford us the same rights in rural Saskatchewan, afford the same rights to rural landowners that are currently being provided to our urban counterparts. There's been much discussion, as we know, about this legislation. We've heard from hunters, we've heard from snowmobilers who will need permission of landowners before heading out, and the Minister of Justice, and who happens also to be our Attorney General and is never under sustained and constant pressure, I might add, has said that permission even applies to the Premier, who likes to snowmobile, and he did get permission this past weekend when he got out. But this is a big change for us. This is a big change for us, whether we're a hunter, a snowmobiler, or a landowner, and that got us wondering, openly wondering in our cabinet, in our caucus, in our community conversations, is there a solution that we can look at? Is there an opportunity for a technological solution that would make it easier for hunters and snowmobilers to get permission from landowners across this province? And would that same solution make it easier for landowners to respond to those requests for access? You know, Saskatchewan, this province has a tremendously long history when it comes to innovation. We're very good at inventing things. We're a world leader in the development of agricultural machinery. You look at the pulse crops that have been developed at the Crop Development Centre at the University of Saskatchewan. We had a farmer not too far from here that built the Easy Wrap 1000. We're very good at this. And right now, the tech sector in Saskatchewan, and more notably right here in Saskatoon, is coming on strong. In fact, many don't know this, but Saskatoon has the second fastest growing tech hub in the country outside of the Waterloo area, and it's located not too far from where we sit here today. We think that there's an opportunity to continue with that tradition and that innovation when it comes to the questions we have about rural property access. So today I'm pleased to announce here that SARM, in partnership with SARM, the Government of Saskatchewan, through Innovation Saskatchewan, Minister Beaudry Miller's ministry, is going to be working together on what's called an Innovation Challenge. We're going to ask our community, our province's best and brightest from our very vibrant tech sector to come forward with some ideas on how we can make it easier for people to ask permission to to gain access onto someone's property, but also how to make it easier for the property owner to properly respond to those requests. Is there an app that is available that can be developed for this? I don't know, but someone is going to find out. The ideas that will come forward, they'll be evaluated by technological experts and as well as general members of the public for their palatability and their merits. But the winner is going to receive $10,000 and is going to work with SARM over the coming months to develop a prototype, ultimately so that we can use it throughout this province. And I want to thank the strong leadership and the commitment of SARM. We're hopeful that our innovators and our entrepreneurs are able to answer this call like they have before. My friends, another issue that is top of mind for many of us in this room, and I know it's top of mind in certain areas of this province, most assuredly, the area where I live quite often, is agricultural water management. Given the importance of our agriculture industry to our economy, we need an effective water management system, and we need effective water management solutions in our province. And I think it's fair for all of us to say that we all have more work to do when it comes to the conversation about effective, responsible water management in the province. Right now, there are a number of successful water management projects that are in place, that are effective from the perspective of the ag producer maximizing their opportunity to produce product, but also effective from the mitigation of flood mitigation for those living downstream. Projects that ensure water is being moved legally and only when systems are able to actually handle that water, thereby the flood mitigation. Legally, properly planned, responsible agricultural water management provides benefits for all, those living upstream and those living downstream. It allows our ag producers, as I said, to maximize their production, and we are an agricultural province, all the while providing that proper flood mitigation and safety for those downstream. Both of these are important. Currently in this province, we have 96 conservation and development area authorities in place. 96. They work very well. 96 C&Ds. But here's the thing. We need hundreds of C&Ds. We need hundreds of C&Ds if we are to provide effective water management flood mitigation downstream. Hundreds of them, not 96. So it's time, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us in this room, and it's time for us across this province to start putting one foot in front of the other when it comes to effective water management plans. And so today, I'm pleased with my colleagues to announce that our government is going to provide a $5 million grant to the Saskatchewan Conservation and Development Association to expand and improve water management systems in the province of Saskatchewan. These dollars are specifically targeted at increasing the number of C&Ds that we have in this province. The Saskatchewan Conservation and Development Authority, the parent authority for C&Ds, will work with our Water Security Agency, and this partnership will support the formation of C&Ds, the training and the governance initiatives involved with those projects, among some other things. We're asking you, as the producers, we're asking you and the producers that you represent to engage on this issue in a very serious way and engage with the SCDA. In government, we will be directing the Water Security Agency to do more as well. We need to streamline our approval process so that we can get work done at the actual speed of business. We all have a part to play in this. We have to continue together to put one foot in front of the other. And I think there is plenty of goodwill, and I think there's a strong desire to move forward if there is a destination in place. And I want to thank you in this room and through you to your constituents. I want to thank you in advance for your communication on this issue over the last number of years. And I want to thank you in advance of your efforts on effective, responsible ag water management here in the province. On this issue of water management, we just simply can't afford to delay this action any longer. Downstream flood mitigation is just too important. Our agri-food production in this province is just too important, not only to us in this room and our communities, but our agri-food production in this province is just too important to the world that we serve. A world that we serve well. And there's a lot happening out in that world, let me tell you. On the international trade front, there are some very serious and immediate threats that we're facing, notably in agriculture. There is a rising tide of protectionism in some of our largest markets, the United States, in China, in India. That's one of the reasons that we have been so serious about engaging in particular with those markets. Over the course of the past year, I've had the opportunity to be in the United States 4 times, most recently just a couple of weeks ago. I've been in China, I've been to India. Right now, our Minister of Trade and Export, Jeremy Harrison, is in the Singapore and in Philippines. And we will continue to engage with our trading partners all around the world. This is not an option for Saskatchewan. This isn't something that we can say, well, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. This isn't an option for us in any way. This is absolutely mandatory that we engage with our trading partners. International engagement is absolutely necessary when 1 in 5 jobs in our province are totally dependent on exports. Jobs in agriculture, jobs in the potash industry, jobs in our energy and our oil industry, jobs in the uranium industry in northern Saskatchewan and in this city, manufacturing jobs in communities across this province, whether they're manufacturing agricultural equipment or service equipment, whether they're manufacturing mining products or energy products, jobs in research, developing new crop varieties and new agronomic techniques for us to use, jobs in the technology industry that I just referenced. We need to be out there as your government, talking to our customers, searching for new markets, meeting with other governments, yes, but protecting the access to the markets that we currently enjoy. There's a real sense of urgency in our province, in Saskatchewan, when it comes to international trade and when it comes to the challenges that are facing our important industries, most notably our resource-based, export-dependent economy that you represent, as do I. I've publicly wondered if the federal government shares this same sense of urgency, a number of times actually. You've seen what's happened over the course of the last few weeks. We have a federal government that is focused exclusively on managing a political crisis, really that is of its own making. A political crisis that is caused by our Trudeau government's intense desire to safeguard 9,000 jobs in Quebec. Meanwhile, in Western Canada, over the course of the last number of months, we've lost 100,000 jobs, in part due to low resource prices, but in part due to federal policies that have been put forward. Billions of dollars of investment is fleeing our province and fleeing our nation because of bills like Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill, or the No More Expansion in the Potash Industry bill, or the No More Anything bill, because of destructive policies that at times in our caucus and cabinet, we have discussions and we're wondering just what it'll take to grab our federal government's attention. I think we've grabbed it from time to time, to be honest. But what do we actually have to do to shift the attention of our federal government away from something like SNC-Lavalin to engaging with our trading partners, engaging with a serious relationship with our trading partners that I would put forward, a relationship that with many of them is deteriorating by the day. And instead of that serious relationship, what are we seeing? We're seeing our ambassador to our largest trading partner, the United States of America, who is actually in Ottawa helping the Prime Minister through this SNC-Lavalin crisis. This is simply just not acceptable. We have steel tariffs imposed by a U.S. administration. We have aluminum tariffs that have been imposed by a U.S. administration. There's a possibility of uranium tariffs under Section 232 that would be very damaging to one of northern Saskatchewan's most important industry, our uranium mining industry, our clean fuel uranium industry. This should be the singular focus. This should be the only focus of the ambassador, the Canadian ambassador to the U.S., and that's why we, as a nation of Canada, have an ambassador in Washington, D.C., and that is why he should be in Washington, D.C., engaging on just these issues that are important to our economy, not only in Western Canada, but across the nation. China, our second largest trading partner. In China, we currently have no permanent ambassador. We've all seen what happened with the Richardson shipment of canola that was denied recently, and Richardson International, a company again based in Western Canada, is the largest exporter of canola in Canada. Saskatchewan, the province, is the largest exporter of canola in Canada. China's actions are a major threat to Canada and by extension to Saskatchewan canola producers, and we need engagement immediately to deal with this very serious threat to the spinal cord of our Saskatchewan industry, and here we are with no ambassador to China. Ladies and gentlemen, the federal government needs to change direction on a number of policies that they have that are damaging our Western Canadian economy, policies that are costing us thousands, tens of thousands of jobs, and it needs to engage in a much more positive fashion than it has to date on our international trade file. This is vital. And this morning, I say again to our Prime Minister, sir, you are not the Prime Minister of Quebec. You are the Prime Minister for all Canadians, and that includes Western Canada, and it includes our communities in Saskatchewan. Delegates, as you notice, we have a strong difference of opinion with the federal government when it comes to policies concerning resource development in Canada, our sustainable resource development in Canada, our sustainable and expanding resource development in Canada. But we know that you in this room and across this province, you have expectations that our government, that your government, your provincial government and the federal government work together on important priorities that affect us all and affect our communities. Infrastructure would be one of those priorities. Infrastructure is a priority for governments at all levels, municipal, federal, and provincial. And this is an area where we depend on our municipalities. We depend on you in this room to do so much of the heavy lifting. Back in October, I was pleased to say that our government secured almost $900 million, $896 million in federal funding over the next 10 years under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. And we've asked SARM and SUMA to begin to prioritize projects for consideration in that infrastructure program. And we want to work quickly with you on the intake of these projects because we know how important they are to our communities. So today, I'm also pleased to announce that the initial process, what we call the expression of interest intake, is going to begin this Friday. We want to move forward, and we want to move forward swiftly with that intake. You can begin to make your submissions so we can get moving on this shared infrastructure investment that is so important to you in this room, so important to your community, but so important to our province and the broader economy that we provide to the nation. Together, we have made significant progress on this file over the last number of years. Government ministries and crown corporations have invested just a little more than $26 billion since 2007. Municipalities have invested heavily on infrastructure across this province as well in partnership with our federal and provincial governments. But our province continues to grow. Even through these challenging times, our province continues to grow. So there's more for us to do. The intake that begins on Friday will give us a better understanding of overall demands of what your priorities are in your municipality and in your community. And in this budget, you're going to see some additional information on this program, on provincial infrastructure funding in your communities, as well as general investment across the province. So I stay tuned to Minister Harpower, our budget, your budget, next Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning, I've talked about a number of things. I've talked about some of the headwinds that we are facing in Saskatchewan as we work together to maintain the momentum that we have enjoyed over the course of the last decade. Talked of the growth and the tremendous progress that we have seen, that you have seen in your community. There are challenges, no doubt, and we talk about those often. But we should never forget how fortunate we are here. In our province, in addition to some headwinds, we have some very strong tailwinds. Beneficial forces that push us forward in the right direction, come whatever. And the most favorable force of all may be the character of our people. So let me close with this story. The story of Saskatchewan's first ever frozen tongue challenge. This sounds about as exciting as a moose truce dance. But some of you may have seen some of the media coverage. We had Watrous Deputy Fire Chief Andrew Matheson took on Jeff Siegfried, the sales manager at Watrous Mainline Motors. It was Jeff's inspiration, actually, and he readily admits that the frozen tongue challenge was, and I quote, a lame brain idea. The two men had a contest to see who could raise the most money for a new fire truck. The fire truck in Watrous was 41 years old, not unlike many fire trucks across the province. So Jeff and Andrew, they beat the bushes for pledges and donations, and with the understanding that the man with the lower total would stick his tongue to a frozen pole. Jeff raised $8,670, but Andrew did a little bit better. He took in $9,100. So when the fateful moment came on a cold, cold day about 2 weeks ago, and if we go back 2 weeks, it was pretty cold, Jeff stuck his tongue to a pole. And after a few minutes, they poured warm water to free that tongue, and Jeff said this, again, I quote, "The pole was so cold that it was freezing the water into an ice cube around my tongue. I was relieved when I pulled a little harder and I could feel it was releasing. It wasn't tearing. I tried to tell the kids watching that this wasn't fun, even though I did it. It's not something that should be attempted." So kids, don't try that at home. But ladies and gentlemen, you put aside the unique nature of this fundraiser and just think for a moment about the spirit behind it. in this province of Saskatchewan, in our home, there is a man who loves his community so much that he would stick his tongue on a pole in the middle of winter. It's truly inspiring, actually. You know, friends, Jeff and Andrew, these are the people that you and I represent. People who frequently ask these three questions. What more can I do? What else can I give? And who else can I help? Our challenge at all levels of government in this nation is to provide leadership that is worthy of the citizens that we serve, that is worthy of Jeff and Andrew. Our challenge is to keep up with the people in our communities and to keep up with the people across our province, to support them as they build our province and take us to a better place. We have a bright future in Saskatchewan because people are ambitious, because people are energetic, but also because Saskatchewan people are compassionate. That's the Saskatchewan advantage. That's the right balance that we have always had in this province, and that is the Saskatchewan tailwind. And whatever happens, whatever uncertainty arises, that is the tailwind that is steadily pushing us forward. Let us never forget that. And let us remind us that our best days are always ahead. Thank you so much for listening here today, and thank you for coming.